SIEPR is Stanford's Economic Policy Research Institute. It's run by Neil Mahoney. It's pretty unique. What is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I know many other universities want to try and imitate SIEPR and struggle.
SIEPR started in the early 1980s, and it brought together the original founders of Silicon Valley. They cared about policy issues relating to Silicon Valley, but also relating to the nation and internationally. And since then, SIEPR's grown a lot.
I think the best way to describe SIEPR is as a home for people who want to see policy informed by evidence. SIEPR was created with this intention of getting faculty who are eager to engage in the policy world, to forge connections, to think deeply about policy solutions, and to come together to really advance action.
I think SIEPR is incredibly unique in the fact that it combines extremely highly rigorous academic work with real connections to people who can make a change based on that work. The special sauce that you find with SIEPR is that you combine the two.
If you want to get to good outcomes, you want to advance society, you want to advance civilization, that's really important to have your decision makers and your policy makers have access to good facts to inform their decisions. And that's our role.
SIEPR is just the perfect place to bring together the highest level policymakers and business leaders and innovators in Silicon Valley. SIEPR has its mission to translate research. It's going to have people right there by your side to make those introductions and help guide you.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm really grateful to SIEPR for providing a neutral place for convening where different perspectives can be heard.
If theta is 1, then 100% goes with them if they move. SIEPR's core mission is connecting research and policy, economic thinkers and economic doers. I've been fortunate in my career to wear both hats. I've mostly been a researcher, trying to write papers that matter and communicate those results to people who will be making the policy decisions. But I've also, through 2 stints in government, been on the other side of this bridge, reading research papers, talking to experts, and distilling those insights into policy decisions. I know that timely evidence matters and can shift policy in a positive direction. One core mission of SIEPR is to support Stanford students. SIEPR's goal is to attract those students to economics, to train them in our frameworks, in rigorous evidence, and to launch them on careers. A second goal for SIEPR is to support nonpartisan policy evidence that matters. The third objective of SIEPR is to be a go-to place for the most important policy discussions. So we do that by bringing world leaders in policy, business, and research, and we host conversations addressing places where there's a thirst for evidence.
What about time trends?
This is more flexible than time trends, right?
One of the really exciting things about SIEPR is exposure to young talent. And these could be pre-docs, postdocs, young faculty, but they're great minds and they've got really exciting ideas and we're catching them earlier in their career. They're going to do really important things and have a major impact in the next decade or 2. That's also really cool.
You have undergrads at Stanford who this might be their first time that they're engaging in academic research. It's not just finance, it's not just the stock market, it's so much broader than that. It's health, it's poverty, it's inequality, it's social safety net programs, it's gun violence, it's climate change, all of these different big topics that I think many Stanford undergrads are interested in. You also have the fellowship program, the SIEPR pre-doc program. That's a huge, huge part of the modern day pipeline into graduate school in economics and economics adjacent fields and beyond.
One core strength of SIEPR is the connections our faculty have in the policy world. We have people who have worked in both Democratic and Republican administrations. Policymakers, often what they're looking for is figuring out what works. A core advantage that SIEPR has as a nonpartisan policy research center is to give policymakers information on what can be most effective in solving the problems that they face.
SIEPR not only does this great research, but its convening power brings together both academics, business leaders, and policymakers. And there's definitely a symbiosis between the three of generating ideas, thinking about what's possible, what's desirable, and what's reasonable from an academic perspective to understand the effects, from a business perspective to understand what are their incentives and how will they change their behavior, and from a policymaker perspective to think about what they think they can get done.
SIEPR is able to convene all of these people together to have a really in-depth conversation that goes beyond the typical talking points and help you learn things that aren't posted on the internet or written down anywhere, but that really come out when you get people in the room discussing the problems they're facing. And in that type of in-depth conversation, we can really surface the issues, dig in to inform policymaking and policy decisions. I saw some amazing professors in the audience, Nobel Prize-winning economists and young and old research stars, people from fields that you wouldn't normally connect with. People came to the conference to learn.
The key thing for me is that policymakers are at least aware of my research. Having been in policy and seen it from the other side, it's not always the case that policymakers, politicians, civil servants will actually listen to policy. So as an academic, you're doing all this research, you get excited about it, you think and hope it affects the real world, but it's great to have that conduit.
SIEPR is uniquely interdisciplinary, and the range of challenges facing our home state is also interdisciplinary. CAPRI is SIEPR's California Policy Research Initiative, and CAPRI is really our intention to study our home state of California. We are trying to build bridges between policymakers and academics. We're trying to train the next generation of California's leaders, and we're trying to advance the frontier of research on California's economic policy so that we can be the leading state that uses evidence to inform policymaking.
I think part of what SIEPR offers to the nation, both as an academic institution, but also from a policy perspective, is an ability to be a platform where different sides can be heard and we can actually be truth-seeking towards what is the biggest impact for moving the nation forward. I think SIEPR, at its highest potential, is moving the needle on those conversations in a way that's bipartisan and in a way that's truly impactful at the end of the day.
The delta in spending. My hope is we have a set of Stanford students who are now in government and are recruiting the next generation of Stanford students. They're reaching out to us when we can be helpful. I hope we will have really made an impact in terms of providing nonpartisan policy research that matters, that we've developed a reputation for excellence, and so people come to us when they want assistance in those areas. I want to continue our legacy of being a go-to place for the most important policy conversations.
I think this is a really exciting time for SIEPR. There's some incredible talent that's been involved in SIEPR from the beginning, and we get to stand on the shoulders of those greats and build the organization going forward. There's never been a time when it's more important than it is right now. That's what we do.